This guy right here pulled off probably the most impressive and the most savage real estate scams of all time. He straight up sold an airport that never existed to a Brazilian bank for $242 million. And he actually pulled it off. The fraudster's name is Emmanuel Nwude, and this story holds the title as the third largest banking-related scam to have ever happened. This whole thing started back in 1995, so this was long before the whole phone and internet scams that we all know today were even a thing. Emmanuel was the director of the Union Bank of Nigeria, which is an important detail because through his role at the bank, he was pretty savvy with how the whole financial system works. Not to mention, this guy had access to a bunch of property information and industry information that would only end up making his scam that much more believable. In 1995, he started to craft his scam, and it loosely looked like this. He would put together a team of 5 or 6 people who were all willing to carry this thing out with him. Each member of this team would impersonate somebody well-known and influential, which would make the proposal seem more legitimate. They would start reaching out to big banks and financial institutions all around the world, offering them an investment of a lifetime. Sounds pretty straightforward so far, right? The investment opportunity that they'd be presenting would be that he was going to be building an airport in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, which is something that everybody agreed would be in very high demand, especially at the time. But on the financial side of things, he would need $242 million to build this airport, but he promised not only a very good return on that $242 million investment, but whatever banker he could get on board to help facilitate this deal, he would be paying out a healthy $10 million bonus to. Now, all Emmanuel had to do was find somebody who was either gullible enough to believe this story or who was desperate enough to do this deal and take that $10 million bonus. Emmanuel and his team started calling up random banks from all around the world, stating that he was looking to raise money from foreign investors to build this airport. And the whole proposal came across as somewhat legitimate because he impersonated a guy named Paul Ogwuma, who's the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria at the time. It wasn't long before Emmanuel actually found somebody who would fall for his scheme. It was Mr. Nelson Sakaguchi, who worked for Brazil's Banco Nordeste, and apparently that $10 million commission potential was enough to entice Nelson to get involved in this crazy proposal. Over the next 3 years, starting in 1995, this guy wired all of the money. It was $191 million worth of principal, and the remaining 50 or so million was in interest. What's crazy is that the airport never even started construction over this time, which you would think would have been a bit of a red flag, but ultimately that didn't matter because an investigation into Banco Nordeste's finances began in 1997 when they began the process of being acquired by another bank called Banco Santander. As expected, when one big bank is acquiring another big bank, they're going to dive deep into the financials to find out where all their money is and how they've been investing it. Well, it turns out that Nelson Sakaguchi was taking all of this money from the bank and sending it to the scammers over all of these years, but he never told anybody at his bank what he was doing. While Banco Santander was looking into all of the financials, they questioned why such a large sum of money was sitting in accounts in the Cayman Islands, seemingly unmonitored. This led to a massive investigation, which uncovered $242 million worth of customer and bank funds, which were sent to Brazil, Britain, the United States, Switzerland, and of course Nigeria over the course of the prior couple of years. The Nigerian gang led by Emmanuel Nwude was arrested shortly after and charged with 86 counts of fraud and bribery for the sale of an airport that never existed. They pled guilty, and they were supposedly also offering bribe money to people who were associated with the trial, which they of course were reprimanded for. But surprisingly, this case was actually initially thrown out in Abuja since the crime did not take place there, and the judge said the case should be moved over to the Lagos court instead. That probably sounds crazy, but thankfully these guys were rearrested as soon as they left the courtroom, and then their whole case was sent over to Lagos. After some more attempted bribes, the kidnapping of a witness, and a bomb scare that caused the hearing to be evacuated, Emmanuel pled guilty in 2004 and received 5 consecutive 5-year sentences totaling a 25-year jail sentence. Then along with the jail sentence, Emmanuel's assets were all seized as well and returned to the bank where they stole it from. Here's the craziest twist though. So for one, Emmanuel was sentenced to 25 years in prison. He ended up serving just 2. He got out in 2006. And what does he do when he gets out? He filed a lawsuit against the government to recover some of those seized assets. He said that the government ultimately ended up taking money from him that was not related to the scam. Get this, as far as all the sources I could find said, he has already reclaimed $52 million from the government. How crazy is that? If we fast forward to 2016, Emmanuel Nwude would find himself in trouble yet again. August 16th, 2016, the town of Ukbo was attacked by a big mob of people. It was some kind of a land dispute between a couple of these local communities. And after this big attack, there were 4 policemen who were shot, a security guard who was killed, and a bunch of other people were injured. It turns out Emmanuel was allegedly the ringleader of this attack. He was arrested on 27 counts, but he ended up being released on bail in late 2016. What's weird is that when I was finishing my research for this video, I tried my best to figure out if Emmanuel Nwude is currently in jail, what his sentence was for those charges in 2016, or if he's even alive anymore, and there isn't really anything out there that confirms any of this. I saw some people out in the comment section of these other articles that were kind of speculating that he's probably released and out there somewhere just living a normal life, which I guess could be realistic. I'm just not sure how corrupt the system is over there in Nigeria, or if it's even possible that maybe he's paid off some other people for freedom once again. Realistically, selling a fake airport to a foreign banker for 242 million bucks is probably not something that we're ever gonna see again in the future, just with how technology works nowadays and how connected we all are. But I'm not gonna lie, this was kind of a fun and entertaining story to reflect back on. I'll see you guys next time.